Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. There is now been the next step in the progress of attacking veterans benefits. There has now been a couple new articles regarding this, and I've seen the headline on one of these a couple times, and I've chosen to ignore it. I cannot ignore it any longer because now we have a second publication out pushing this information. And I want to read through it with you because our benefits are absolutely being attacked. And if we walk around blindfolded, that's how we lose. So as a veteran community, we need to understand exactly where we're at, why we are where we're at. And if you feel like combating this type of information, then you need to do so. So here we are. We're going to jump into it with the first one. This is going to be a 2-video thing. I'm going to do one video on this first article and then go to the next article that came out after this first one from The Economist. Before I do, I want to throw out a special thank you to a super comment from Roberto Diaz 4313. Thank you so much, Roberto. I appreciate you so very much. Roberto Diaz 4314. Thanks again for your super comment. I really do appreciate the support. All right, so the headline that I hate so much that made me not even want to do this is American veterans now receive absurdly generous benefits. One word makes this very negative, and that's absurdly, because American veterans now receive generous benefits could be a nice thing. But when you say American veterans now receive absurdly generous benefits, it alludes to the fact that what you're really saying is you don't deserve what you're getting, veterans. This is from theeconomist.com, and so that's important to note. And we'll jump through it here. Hit the thumbs up for me, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. Every thumbs up and every minute watched helps to share this information to others. And I'd love to see what your thoughts are as we go through this. I will give my thoughts on the way through it as well. So, an enormous rise in disability payments may complicate debt reduction efforts. Okay, so what they're already talking about is debt reduction efforts with regard to the U.S. government, as if VA benefits are just, we're just the anchor that's just weighing it all down, right? Has nothing to do with other stupidity. So let's jump into it. And again, I'm reading this, I'm giving you my thoughts. So it starts off here. Donald Trump delights in projecting strength, meaning he loves America's armed forces. During his first term, the president-elect signed legislation to spend more on defense before proclaiming that he had accomplished the military, in quotation. So I think they're trying to be disparaging. Anyway, we'll move on. On the campaign trail, he doubled down, vowing further increases in defense spending and promising to tackle a recruitment shortfall. Yet he also wants to cut government waste and has hired Elon Musk to lead the Department of Government Efficiency. So already in this first paragraph, there toward the end, it's really, if you just take what we've read so far, the headline, absurdly generous benefits, but yet he wants to cut government waste. So to the author of The Economist, it sounds to me already as though you are saying that veterans are a waste. Just saying. All right. Let's move on. When it comes to the Department of Veterans Affairs, these two instincts may be in tension. The department's budget has surged over the past 2 decades, rising from $86 billion in today's dollars, then equivalent to 2.6% of the federal budget, in 2000, the year 2000, to $336 billion. So 5% of today's budget. So I don't know if they really mean maybe 2024 or maybe 2022, 2023. 2000 is a long time ago, so that could be a typo. Excuse me. So what they're saying here is rising from $86 billion in today's dollar, 2.6 of the federal budget in 2000, so 24 years ago, to $336 billion which is 5% of today's budget this year that we're in. Okay, so let's tackle that for a second. So, okay, it went from so it's doubled. Okay, so the 86, I hate when they do that anyway. So they're saying 86 billion to 336 billion. Well, that's more than double, but it's actually less than double the percentage. Okay, 2.6% of the federal budget to 5%, which would be a more accurate way to really gauge this thing anyway. So now, when we're talking about a 2.4% difference in relation to the entire federal budget, it's less than half percent. Okay, now remember, this is almost a quarter of a century. I mean, we're talking 24 years. What are we looking at? Well, when you're talking about the percentage, I would say that the biggest factor, and they're talking about the entire VA, okay? Staff, everything, not just VA benefits. It's important. So a couple different things. One, more veterans than ever before are accessing their benefits that they earned because one, they're not letting stigma hold them back. They're not letting ignorance hold them back. They're realizing what benefits they have and had, and they're utilizing them now more than ever before. Back in 2000, 24 years ago, maybe there was 10% of the veteran population that utilized VA benefits. Now we're looking at 30% of the veteran population that are utilizing VA benefits, not to mention a 20-year war, right? I mean, these things all compound. In addition, you have an increased VA workforce because we have more veterans in the system, right? So you're going to have more workforce on the VHA side and the VBA side to process those claims. So you have more employees that you're paying. You have a bigger footprint. Maybe you have more clinics. The list goes on. So the fact is that, yes, more veterans now than ever before are receiving benefits. Rightfully so, by the way, because in my opinion, we were completely underserved in 2000, let alone go back to the 1970s and ask veterans how they felt they were being taken care of, right? So it has been a tremendously long road, and here we are today. So let's move on. They're talking about the VA, and it says it now receives almost 3 times as much as the Department of Transportation, which who cares about the Department of Transportation in relation to VA? The two do not have anything to do with each other. Remarkably, this boom has occurred despite a nearly 1/3 decline in veteran population. Again, veteran population is declining. However, the veteran population is more aware of what benefits they actually have. And to be honest with you, of the 17 plus million veterans, only 30% are using VA benefits in the form of compensation. Ask yourself if you think more than 3 out of 10 veterans would qualify for something, anything, a 10% rating, anything from the VA. Ask yourself that. Do you think it's more than 3 of 10 would qualify for something? I do. So that's a stupid argument. The fact that look, we're talking about the veteran population is decreasing. The baby boomers are disappearing. Vietnam veterans are disappearing, right? These two groups were probably the biggest rub dirt on it, move forward, I'm not applying for anything, and viewed these benefits as welfare instead of the benefits that they earned, right? It took many years for Vietnam vets to shift gears on that. So again, stupid correlation here. Anyway, so it says here, and they talk about the veteran population dropping from 26 million to 18 million, and annual spending per veteran as a consequence has risen 6-fold. All right, so let's move on. Mr. Musk is zeroing in on discretionary spending, okay, which includes programs such as the department's medical services. Not just the medical services, the entire VHA budget is currently not authorized. And he's zeroing in on unauthorized programs. The way Congress has worked traditionally is if they provide appropriations in an appropriations bill and get things funded, by default, they're authorizing it. So it's more of a formality than anything with regard to VHA. Anyway, another stupid comment. So, but the main driver is its spending surge in mandatory outlays for disability compensation. Between 2000 and 2024, such payments ballooned. Do you love how they keep using these crazy words? Ballooned. From 26 billion in today's prices to 159 billion last year alone. Saw a 17% jump. Okay, the 17% jump, primarily, if you're talking about last year, was probably due to presumptive conditions. What's a presumptive condition, you may ask? Presumptive condition means you served in X location during X period, and because of whatever factors were there, you are more likely to come down with a whole host of different cancers and illnesses way higher than your counterpart that did not have to be in those areas. So, of course, you're going to see a bump because of the presumptives and sick veterans. So, another stupid point that they're trying to point out. Thank goodness, 17% jump. Yes, that's a win. We're taking care of our veterans. Should be the answer there. So, and I'll give the VA this. At least the VA continues to tout, we have been serving more veterans at a higher pace than ever before, and they keep saying that line, right? Whatever it is, I don't remember it, but basically that they keep touting that they are serving more veterans now than ever before. Good. That means we're doing something right. Ask a Vietnam vet, right? Anyway, moving on. And the department's latest budget request forecasts that compensation will soar to $185 billion over the next 2 years. Why? Well, you still got veterans that haven't applied for their benefits. So we could say, guess what, VA? You have a multitude of veterans who would qualify for something that have never applied. And guess what? You're saving money. You're saving billions of dollars. Billions, because these folks never applied. And even if they do apply 10 years, 5 years, 2 years down the road, you still saved money while they didn't apply. So there you go. There's your cost savings. Let's move on. The current system was introduced during the First World War. It provides tax-free monthly payments to soldiers who are injured or sick owing to their service. From 1960 to 2000, roughly 9%, I said 10, roughly 9% of veterans qualified for payments. That's a lie. Why do they do that? They have no clue how many veterans would have actually qualified. 9% of veterans that applied, 9% of the total veteran population were awarded VA benefits, sure, but there could have been 50% that qualified but never used them. So don't say it that way, because that sounds stupid. So from 1960 to 2000, roughly 9% of veterans qualified for payments, typically for ailments such as hearing loss or burns. So again, they make it sound like, everybody applied, but only 9% got it. And that's not true. So let's keep things in the right lanes here. They bounce all over the place. The department assigns a rating from 0 to 100% based on the severity of disabilities. Sure. But there's also special monthly compensation that goes beyond the 100% for the most severe of all. So, but they leave that out too, of course. In 2000, the average rating was 30%. Monthly payments averaged the equivalent of $975 in today's money. Few qualified for the top tier, they call it. The modern program bears little resemblance to its original form. This year, 6 million veterans, or 1/3 of the total, qualified for payments with an average monthly benefit of $2,200. Veterans may file for an unlimited number of disabilities and appeals against decisions as often as they wish. Okay, who cares? Because you either have the evidence or you don't. Veterans are well equipped to file for VA compensation benefits and don't really know exactly what they should be filing, what sort of evidence, how much the VA will help or will not help in discovery and putting together evidence for them. A lot of times people think that the VA is going to help you with that process, and that's not really the case. Sure, there is a duty to assist, but really you need to make sure your T's are crossed and I's are dotted. Now, unlimited number of disabilities? Sure, but you have to prove they're service connected. So instead of it ending at that, right, that you can file for unlimited disabilities and appeals against decisions as often as you wish, what they should say is that veterans must prove their time in service, have a diagnosed condition that is either a result of their time in service or manifested during their time in service, right? And, oh, by the way, if they get denied, but they have additional evidence, they can apply again. Well, that sounds right to me. Dumb. Moving on. The average rating has climbed above 60%. So what's above 60%? So are they saying 64%, rounded down to 60? Or are they saying that it's 55% and it's rounded to 60? You know, who knows where they're going with that. Anyway, so is it 70% or 60? So it's climbed above 60%. So is it 61, 62, 63, 64, I guess? I don't know. And 1 in 4 disabled veterans now receives the once rare 100% rating, such a designation ensures a generous $4,000 monthly payment for life with no conditions attached. Well, that's not really true either. 100% rating, you could have a temporary 100%. For one example, you can have the regular scheduler 100% because you have cancer from Agent Orange, or you have some sort of horrendous neck cancer from burn pits, and you're rated at 100%. But guess what? If you're one of the lucky ones and you're able to battle your cancer back into remission, now you get reduced. And you get reduced, and then your ratings are going to be based on residual effects of that cancer. So I don't really fully agree with how they're wording things. It's very anti-veteran. So moving on, starting at age of 25, a former soldier could earn well over $2 million in present value terms. But again, they love to throw out the numbers and the math, but let's figure what's the average age of a disabled veteran? What's the average age of a 100% disabled veteran? What's the average age of a 100% permanent and total rated veteran? Right? Oh, well, that's not going to fit the narrative they're trying to point out here. So I love when publications take everything, dismantle it, and place it back together in a way that helps to fit the picture that they want to paint. Drives me nuts. All right, so why has this happened? Well, what happened? Because you haven't really described anything, theeconomist.com. You're giving a bunch of little half-truths here, and you're not really painting the picture. So why has what happened? Why has the once rare 100% rating, why is that now being utilized more? I don't know. Maybe there's more cancer cases in people that have burn pit issues, or maybe there's more PTSD, or maybe somebody who's had their conditions for, let's say 30 years, over time they've gotten worse and created secondary conditions, and their primary conditions warranted an increase. Why has this happened? Well, let's see what you say. From 2001, the department began to broaden its list of presumptive conditions. I absolutely hate when anybody brings that up as a reason why our costs are going up. It's the right damn thing to do. If the presumptive condition list shows you that the veterans that served in Agent Orange riddled areas that were sprayed down by this stuff, or you were stirring human feces and sniffing it for days on end, are causing major conditions to those people. The medical community says, don't you think those should be presumptive? What that means is veteran A, we'll use your 25-year-old as an example. Your 25-year-old example was overseas and now has some sort of crazy neck cancers and all kinds of other issues and PTSD. Okay, so now, well, we'll focus on the presumptive aspect. Now they got some sort of crazy cancer. What are you saying here? That shouldn't be broadened? They should not have broadened the presumptive list? All right, let's move on. It says, where officials, they're explaining presumptives, where officials automatically assume the problem is service-related, to include ailments such as type 2 diabetes, which they're pointing at you, Vietnam veteran. They're pointing at you for diabetes from Agent Orange. Now, I'm going to tell you that especially the lists of back when were much harder to create even than they are now. With the PACT Act, it gave a little more flexibility to the VA to do all of the studies, medical studies, to show the correlation and causation of, look, start drinking some Agent Orange there, economist, whatever you are. Drink some Agent Orange for a couple months and then come back to me and tell me how you feel. So it's just dumb. It's to include ailments such as type 2 diabetes, allowing any veteran with the disease to qualify for compensation. Again, a lie. Because a presumptive condition requires you, the veteran, to have served in a specific area during a specific time frame that had something going on there that would make you much more likely to come down with a presumptive condition for that set, right? People don't, The Economist, you can do better. You could do a little research instead of reading a couple bumper stickers and trying to throw something together. Okay, so I got to read this part all together once because it's just so irritating. From 2001, the department began to broaden its list of presumptive conditions, where officials automatically assume the problem is service-related, to include ailments such as type 2 diabetes, allowing any veteran with the disease to qualify for compensation. How does that even make sense? It doesn't. But some joker out there, and this is what's dangerous, right? Somebody's going to read this who's not a veteran, right? Or even a veteran who reads it, who doesn't understand anyway, right? Remember, only 30% of veterans are utilizing VA disability compensation. The others have very little understanding. So they're going to read something like this and think, wow, yeah, that does seem wrong, right? Because it's a lie. That whole 4 lines is a big lie. All right. The reasoning for such expansion is not always robust. For instance, a department-funded study found only limited evidence linking herbicide exposure in Vietnam to type 2 diabetes. In 2022, President Joe Biden's PACT Act expanded eligibility further, with illnesses such as asthma and chronic rhinitis gaining approval. And so they're mixing things up now. They talked about Vietnam, and now they're shifted to the Middle East. Wonderful. As some soldiers had picked up the conditions from burn pits in Afghanistan and Iraq. All right, so moves on here to say, once on the payroll, veterans usually remain beneficiaries for life once on the payroll. The stigma around collecting payments has faded in recent decades. and then they're saying that like it's a bad thing, right? So you should have a stigma is what they're saying. You should not go after your benefits that you earn. You signed the dotted line, you did your time, you got out honorably, you did all your things, you crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's. And the Economist says you should have a stigma around trying to collect anything from your benefits that you earned. If it was any other employer, right, that said, hey, look, you do your time here with us, and if you do 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, however long, you'll be fully vested in all of this stock that we're going to give you. And after your time, nobody would expect you to go, keep it. I don't need it. I'm not going to take a handout. That's nuts. All right. Online videos with tips. You're welcome. About how to boost your disability rating are widespread. You're welcome. It is common for veterans to start on the program at 50% disability rating for, say, sleep apnea linked to service stress, only to then add more disabilities and have the rating increase to 100% within a few years. It's a program that helps a lot of people who deserve it, but getting on the program becomes an escalator to higher disability ratings and compensation, says Mark Duggan of Stanford University. With his good old buddy, Lieutenant Colonel Greenberg. Wonderful. These guys are jokers and have zero understanding. Once you qualify, you have an incentive not to get better. Okay? Moving on. It is unclear if the spending, you know what, ask anybody with a 100% rating for cancer if they'd rather have the cancer or if they'd rather have the 100%. I'm picking this whole article is that. It is unclear if the spending is even benefiting veterans. Ask any veteran, disabled veteran, if they feel as though they are better off with VA disability compensation or not. And sure, you can say whatever you want to say, but here's the reality. This is the fact. The fact is that VA disability compensation is in place to help bridge the gap in earning capacity. Now check this out, Mark Duggan. Here's how this works. You probably think, well, if you can go earn $150,000 today, you obviously don't have an earning disadvantage, we'll say. And then my reply to that is veterans are not living as long as our civilian counterparts because of all of our severe complications, we'll just say. So as a whole, the veteran population is decreasing very rapidly. And so the earning capacity also has to do with longevity. How long can a veteran continue to work at the pace in which they need to? That is another piece of the equation that you probably have forgotten about. But it's fine. You're at Stanford, and that's okay. Moving on. Research by Mr. Duggan and co-authors find that disability compensation has reduced employment, with 1 in 5 new recipients leaving the workforce after the change in 2001. Nearly 2 million additional working age men have gone on the roll since then. This implies 400,000 may have been discouraged from work. A study in 2022 by David Silver, then of Princeton University, and Jonathan Zhang, however you say it, then of McMaster University, found that extra compensation had failed to boost veterans' mental and physical health. Indeed, suicide rates have increased relative to comparable non-veterans. To rein in the costs and focus the department's mission, policymakers could take a page from the Congressional Budget Office recommendations, which suck, by the way. The nonpartisan scorekeeper advises narrowing eligibility for disability compensation to veterans with service-connected conditions. Okay, let's say that again. The nonpartisan scorekeeper advises narrowing eligibility for disability compensation to veterans with severe service-connected conditions. Narrowing eligibility for veterans with severe service-connected conditions. Lowering benefits for some veterans and introducing a means test. So the means test is that, you're making $70,000 a year. Well, you're totally fine. Again, my thought on that is, okay, fine, you could do that today, but can you do it tomorrow? Because I can almost guarantee that most veterans will leave the workforce sooner, and not because they're wealthy. It's because they just can't continue on. Reducing payments to soldiers will never be popular, but it would be wise. America's veteran obsession has gone too far. Okay, so a bunch of veteran haters and benefit haters. And here's the thing. We didn't write the benefits, right? We didn't make these things up. In fact, I could tell you the majority of you had no clue that any of this stuff even existed until after you got out. And you went, man, and you went to the doctor, and the doctor said, wow, you have the back of an 80-year-old, or your knees are shot and you need to have a knee replacement at age 30. Or guess what? I hate to break this to you, but you have cancer. There's a ton of different things, and I'm just frustrated. So I'm sure that came out in this long rambling for a 30-minute video. If you hung on to the end, I'd love to know. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.